Men of Reddit who have found out their child isn't actually theirs, how did you react and how are things now? When I was in the Navy I had an on-again off-again relationship with a girl back home. On my last deployment my girlfriend told me via email that she was knocked up. I accepted it, emailed my parents, told the military all that jazz. I ended up getting discharged, so I went back home and took care of my pregnant girlfriend. She had the baby and I thought I was the father for 5 months. While she was on vacation with a girlfriend. While she was gone I got an email from her boyfriend telling me that they had been together for the last 4 months and also for the week in Myrtle Beach I was bankrolling. After that I got the paternity test, found out it wasn't mine and told her I was done and wanted no contact. Part is my parents still babysit and treat the kid like their grandkid, so she's at a lot of family functions and such. Also the guy wasn't even the father. Her. What the dude? Your parents still treat him/her like their grandkid? And invite the girl that broke their son's heart to family events? If you're okay with it then whatevs, but if not then talk to your parents about that. I almost admire the ballsiness in doing something so awful to your so and then acting like if they leave they've just proven they never really loved you. It takes a great deal of delusion and/or nutsack. Delusion, yes. Balls, not at all. This is really real to people like that. They are unswayable. My child's mom is like this on the daily despite child support, me paying for things that were supposed to be included in child support and blowing off important things in my life because she didn't manage her time properly to take care of our son, etc., etc., and yeah, all that ends up being my fault and my chance to prove myself. Don't get me wrong, I love the extra time with my son. I'd keep him forever if the state wasn't willingly ignorant and openly, but I plan my schedule and finances accordingly, you know. Anyways, I didn't see through the delusion until it was too late and now I'm contractually banished to hell for the next 15 years. Don't forget to wear a, y'all. Delusion, yes. Balls, not at all. This is really real to people like that. They are unswayable. My ex, when caught and presented with irrefutable proof that she had been cheating for more than half a year, tried to tell me that I clearly did not love the kids in any way if I wasn't willing to just stay married and go on pretending for the sake of the kids. Said she would pretend to still love me for their sake so they wouldn't grow up not understanding healthy relationships. And I was a horrible person if I wouldn't do the same. This is the same ex who, for a year or two before this discussion, had been ignoring the kids nearly completely when she was home with them and often leaving as soon as I got home from work and, at least starting when the affair provably started, staying out until 3 or 4 in the morning. Even after I kicked her out of the house and started the divorce proceedings, keeping my professional job while acting as a single father to the kids with minimal help from her, she continued to maintain that I was an unfit parent due to my decisions and she was going to take them away and leave me to see them 2 days every other week. The court did not agree with her. She still doesn't understand why. 2 years of DNA tests that the state continually reported as inconclusive, it led to going to someplace out of state. Got it done. Got the test results back. Less than 2% probability of genetic match. Huh. So. I called her up. Asked, so. You wanna tell me what the /real/story is? 2 weeks before we had our night under the sheets that resulted in the talk 9 months later, her father had come home drunk out of his mind, and her. I still recall the tone of her voice asking me if I had actually taken the test and that it was real. Well. Turns out her mother heard that conversation. Notified someone and dad took a DNA test. So her dad is the dad of her kid. And I felt horrible for her. I can't even joke about this. Her dad was arrested, the kid last I heard was doing well. It forced her to clean up her act. She'd gone in for heavy drug and alcohol use and it drove us apart before the child did, and that was 10 or so years ago. We don't talk. Every once in a while I'll think about the kid but I don't know. This world ain't a nice place. And with all the she'd gone through, I wasn't gonna make it worse. So I left it alone. Edit, woke up this morning to my inbox being flooded. Jesus. Some of what's here is taken from other responses I made. From what little I heard from mutual friends over the years, apparently dad came out of prison 3 years later a Bible guy. This all took place in Texas, BTW. Supposedly he was doing his best to support her and whatnot. But there was some kind of falling out and she'd moved out and in with one of her girlfriends up in Dallas. I can't even fathom it, to be honest. I still consider the man to be scum-sucking trash for putting his daughter through all that. And I can't exactly fault her at all, for her, literally, wanting me to be the father. She was so hoping that it was the case, because it reviled her. The sobbing on the phone when the realization hit was shattering. I remember being on the phone for hours, most of it her crying. I recall my mom after the fact, telling me I should have sued her. In my mind it was done. I had 2 years of my life interspersed with phone calls, genetic testing visits, even bounty hunters showing up at my door and place of work serving me with notices from her family to show up or else. She had to raise this kid with her father the whole time being ignorant. All that time. It's. A lot of you asked why I left her, why didn't she get an abortion, etc. First of all, when she had originally called me and we had the talk 9 months later, I asked her what she wanted to do. Originally, she wanted to abort it. This was back in 2003 to 2004, so access to clinics was readily available. I asked if that's what she really wanted, she insisted, and I had sent her a money order to help pay for it. She never got the abortion. I originally got a story she went in, took the pill they gave her and it made her so sick she left. I was 22 to 23, and didn't really know jack about how they do abortions. What we learned in high school involved either the scrape or the vacuum cleaner methods. So I took her word for it. Sometime later she went to the courts, at her family's insistence, and wanted me to provide child support, and that's when I had the choice to either pay for it or get the testing. Talking it out with my parents, cause like all if I knew what I was doing, I decided on getting the test done. If I was going to pay for it, best to make sure I was the one who should have been responsible. At this point in our relationship, it had been about a year since that night we got down and dirty, and we broke up about 3 to 4 months after that night. I had moved back home with my parents, the job I had in Houston went out of business, I was out of money and had no other options. We broke up due to her frequent alcohol and drug usage. I never understood the need for anyone to get completely wasted on alcohol. 1 to 2 drinks. Fine. Smoke some dope? Fine. What the? No. So I ended it. She was consistently plastered and uncontrollable. And this was all before I'd even learned she was pregnant. The first test, for whatever reason, took damn near 6 months before anyone heard anything. The results came back inconclusive. I never got any more information than that, so, either something happened at the lab or I don't know. I wound up getting referred to a place about an hour away from my parents and went there to get it done. So by the time 2 years since that night of conception rolled around, we finally had the results in. I remember opening the envelope and looking the sheet over. A lot of it I didn't understood. I did see, less than 2% chance of genetic match. I called the number at the top of the form and spoke to a woman, provided the info and she took me through it. There was absolutely no way I could be the father. Now, I'll admit, I was elated at first. I thanked the woman, hung up and looked at my cell. I had to call her. And reality set in. I called her. After all the crying and admissions, I asked what really happened the day she claims she went in for the abortion. On her way to the clinic she said something inside her clicked, and she wanted to keep it. The roughly $600 I had sent. She used it for clothes and stuff for the baby. I asked why she couldn't have just been honest from the start, and the results of the test were why. Some of you asked why didn't I become the child's father? Because I wasn't ready for it at that point in my life. 23 years old, no job, no prospects, thousands of miles gone, and I never got along with her family. It wouldn't have been good for either of us. In the end we agreed not to be angry with one another. She was pissed at her father though. I don't know if that ever went away, though I highly doubt it did. Also I wasn't ripping on Texas. I actually really like Texas, the people are friendly, I simply wanted to provide some geolocation to what happened, is all. What are insinuating with, this all took place in Texas, BTW. That we are alcoholic, Bible thumping, child rapists? I wasn't ripping on Texas. I actually really like Texas, the people are friendly, and I simply wanted to provide some geolocation to what happened, is all. I spent 2 years living in Houston working for a local IT firm. Met a lot of great people, had some amazing barbecue, seriously, it's like you can't go 2 blocks without hitting a barbecue joint that doesn't rock, and met some folks who were religious but not Bible-thumping nuts. As far as rapists go, only ever met the one, and you're reading about it. So that's it. P.S. As far as this reading like a detective novel? Thanks. I think.